Yo, what up, what up, what up? Welcome back to another stream. On here today, I'm going to continue to build out this last little bit of this feature. Did a bunch of work today, actually, and yesterday offline, and got a lot of things done. Just kind of like cleaning things up now, basically. Basically setting up a lot of settings, integrations, just a lot of like, core functionality tightening and things like that. So there's a few more things I need to do before I can kind of get to this last little bit of the feature that I've been kind of holding off on. But in general, it's mostly kind of wired up. So let's kind of hop in here and see where we are at with things. All right, so I just needed to clean up some of my tests. All right, let's push these changes. Make sure that that deploys properly. All right, while that goes, let's start another branch for this last little functionality, core functionality that I want to implement. Nothing like crazy, but it is a nice touch. So let's do this. Let's create a branch. Let's call it DM privacy settings. All right, so basically I'm gonna just, like I said, I implemented a ton of features for on a user and a collective basis. So like from a user perspective, I really got pretty granular because I like that. I like, especially when you're doing like social platforms and stuff like that, can deliver a ton of information to people. Having, you know, a lot of preferences and settings that they can kind of tweak to their liking, I think is better than anything. So I wired up invitation gating basically right here, who can invite you in addition to who can mention you, and then also collective invitations in terms of emails, so you can turn those off as well. So I got pretty deep with this. I also wired up some things in terms of your actual collective. You can manage those settings as well as a owner or admin of it. You can also update some of those same preferences as you want. So you would no longer get emails about unread messages, and you can control who can actually mention the collective in any of those specific settings. Also, I wired up open membership. Basically, you can make it an open collective where anybody can join, or you can turn that off to make it by invitation only. Make sure it still fires. This member cannot be invited. Why not? Let's refresh. Let's check their settings. Okay, invite you out because I'm not following you. So let's switch this back. And let's come to here again. Let's log in as this one. Now I should be able to invite. Cool. All right, so still functions, still goes through properly, even though it is public. So you can still invite users, and you can still have it be open at the same time. Make sure that, all right, notification goes through. Okay, I need to update some of these real quick. That's a good little catch. Come here, it's got a notification item, and then avatar should fall back. All right, so org avatars should fall back to the default if they haven't uploaded one. Can you patch this? All right, so basically, just going to patch that. Somewhere I definitely had a check for an organization, and then if it didn't have it, it probably fell back to the user avatar, but I need to fall back to the default avatar. So as you can see, fix that, come back here and check. Gun. I don't even know why it's updating on those. It's the main. All right, so as you can see previously, it was if there was an organization logo, it would show it. If it wasn't, then it would show the actor. So now, if there is a organization logo, and if there isn't one uploaded, it just falls back to null, which launches my default app. So let's keep that. All right, but let's check this, make sure I can still. Cool. I can join, set up, still functions. Cool. So let's come here. Let's just decline these. Should remove. It did. All right. So yeah, got a lot of functionality set up. So the last major functionality I'm going to do outside of this last little bit that I want to do in terms of settings is updating my, add another preference basically. add another preference, and this one's going to be for managing my direct messages, basically who can DM me. So let's go ahead and wire this up. Let's start with this plan. Let's give it to my agent to deliver a plan and how to implement this. I want to add another preference setting, this time for to control who can direct message a user. Here, setting should need the new setting for both users and organizations. Enum should be as follows for users. I'll kind of keep it similar to who can mention. So here's my mention. So basically who can direct message me. Let's call it everyone. Only people I'm following. Only creators. And nobody. None should be as follows for orgs. Everyone, members, creators, and nobody. All right, let's go. Following equates to users. Users they're actively following. Add a little more context. Let's go members to current members of that org. So basically it's just setting the setting to control who can actually direct message an account, which is going to require some server-side gating and then also a bunch of UI kind of tweaks, but shouldn't be too difficult to implement this. So I think that's the main thing I need. I need another type enum. I need updated column in both my organization and users, extend it in my better off configurations, and then wire up the servers to handle this. So that should mostly be it. So can give me an implementation plan for this new feature. All right. All right, double checking my last push from my staging. It worked. So all those changes are in play. Things are looking pretty good so far. Let's go.
Yeah.
Think so, but I don't know how it's possible. Figures finishes up this plan. All right, but while that continues to implement this plan or give me a plan, let's go through my code base, which is getting pretty deep right now. Let's just kind of test some of this out. All right, so I got loaders in place for all of these new things. Notifications, invitations. Let's mark this as red. Joined as a member. Come here. All right, my following shows collectors that I'm a member of. And if I leave, I should no longer see those in my following feed. And I don't. But I can come in here and I can follow. And they can still be here. Cool. So that works. Yeah. Appreciate the follow. All right, collectors work. This layout works pretty well. All right, let's come in here. Cool, get the notifications. DM's working. Updated my members list to handle searching. Make sure that works. All right, that is good. Invitations. All right, cool. So mostly, like I said, mostly done for this collective group feature for this application. Next thing I need to do is just this last little implementation, and I think let's see what it does. All right, I can update my schema with 2 new enums, which I thought, one for user and one from the org with those things I laid out for it, and then can add some columns defaulting to everyone. I've said this multiple times, but if you're using Drizzle and you work with an agent, do not let that agent generate migration files for you, because it will break your Drizzle's history and logic. It cannot read those for whatever reason unless you do it manually. So I always explicitly tell it, do not generate or migrate anything from my DB. Also, you also want to double check what it does in the DB, because sometimes it does some weird things in the schema that I have got. Shared preference, contents resolvers. All right, so it's going to create another shared helper, which has created a few. I'm probably going to refactor these into one shared helper, but we'll see what it adds. Follow the same pattern used by invitation, mention, preference, normalization. Update my auth client and my auth. Like I said, it's basically you just got to add extend the additional fields. Is because organizations is better auth generated. You have to manually add those additional fields into the plugins and define those in those files. So that's normal. Central DM enforcement. All right, it's going to update my direct message server to actually gate those things based on email or DM preferences by the user. Pretty normal. Map my errors, and then it's going to update my search box in terms of users that you're going to DM, which is already set up for my mention. So let's come here. Let me double check. So I go to my settings, go to mentions. Who can mention me? Nobody. So if I come back, create that note, I shouldn't be able to mention them in any of these posts. Start typing, right? It says it's disabled, basically grayed out, and it says a message, this member cannot be mentioned. Cool. So that works. Same with organizations, has that same kind of update. So that's what it's going to do for DMs. Because when you come here for my DMs, as I have it currently set up, you come to messages, you come to create, and it actually searches. You can search through the entire member list, and based on, interaction scores and everything, but you can narrow it down to users. So it's basically going to do the same thing for DMs. That seems in line with what I'm doing. Like I said, I use Plan a lot in agent mode because it does a really good job of scoping my entire kind of code base and what I've already implemented and kind of building on top instead of just building it from however it feels. So I always plan before I tell it to do anything. Because sometimes it'll just start doing things without any full context and you'll be like, what the fuck are you doing? Settings controls, basically the same thing as my other toggles. That's pretty easy. All right, so basically just 7 phases, and this should be pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna tell it, like I said, implement phase 1, and then again, I always tell it leave DB generation and migration to. All right, so here's the enums, which is just extending as I already have for all these set up. I could probably kind of refactor some of these down to, you know, similar ones because they do kind of, but instead of complicated, I'll just keep them all individualized. All right, so added a DM recipient preference, defaulting to everyone, not null, same as my mentions in other ones, so similar setup there. That should be pretty much it for my schema. So like I said, I will come in here and handle generation migration myself, so to avoid any future issues, we'll git generate npx drizzle git migrate. And just to hammer on the fact that you absolutely should handle all your schema generations, migrations, and changes by yourself. I forgot to tell my agent to do this one time in one of my last features, and it just deleted an entire migration file in history, which is going to completely break how Drizzle would work because it generates based on, you know, that you can't not manually go in there and mutate those things. But for whatever reason, it chose to try to mutate those directly, which is like a big no-no. All right, phase 2, let's add this, implement phase 2. All right, so just basically gonna create another helper file. Like, let's see where it is. Let's check my library folder. Kind of like this. It's basically gonna create something just like this, which handles my invitation preferences, and it's done it a few places. So here's my mentions, same. I'm probably going to refactor these down to one helper file. I'm not sure yet that's what I want to do, but that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. Because once again, it's adding all this extra types and references, which, you know, I typically just throw into one giant file and kind of go from there. Default, okay. So that is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to tell it to just go ahead and narrow some of these reference files down. Can you refactor my preference helper files into one file for better management? To one helper file for better management. All right, let's do that. While it does that, let's see what phase 3 is. Field exposure, basically just updating my BetterOpt configuration files, which is pretty easy. And then you're going to start getting into the harder things. So should probably be a little bit more, because it's going to probably grab some files that I don't want to combine. So let's look, let's add DM preference for sure, follow permissions, invitations, mentions, newsletter, resubscribe. No, let's leave that. Let's leave permissions. Notification. All right, let's all right, so it's just gonna be these files. All of these preference helper files into one helper file for better management. These settings, preference files. I'll probably end up renaming this as well. Notification payload. Let's go and rename this. Let's go notifications. .ts. It should update across my lib / all right, cool. All right, so created a preferences type file to handle all of the different preferences across the user settings, which is better. So I don't need to look across like 5-10 different files. Running around, some lower file. All right, last thing I do need though is can you add some comments for context. This file. All right, so consolidate all those preference files into one giant preference TS TypeScript file that will handle all my types and preferences for user settings. So I don't need to go look in multiple places for this, but I do want to add some comments context for this. All right, just going to add some context to that. Epic Z, man, what up? Thanks for joining the stream, the chat. What am I working on? I am building out a social platform that is actually already live and in beta right now, but I am building out core functionality right now, working on some kind of user settings and stability type things. DM recipient preferences, members means users who are current. Cool. All right, so let's go back and tell it to implement phase 3, which should just update my auth files. Implement the plan. So what it should do is just add additional fields to my configurations, wherever it is, in my organization plugin for BetterAuth. Let's see, email, additional fields. As you can see, add a DM recipient preference. So it's just basically telling BetterAuth that you should be accepting and looking for these additional fields that are not, core functionality from the organization's plugin. All right, so I added that. So now BetterAuth can actually read those and it will accept those. It's just a little quirk of BetterAuth that, that you have to do for additional fields, for not only for organization plugin, but also for user fields. So let's do that. All right, let's go. What's phase 4? I don't remember what phase 4 was. It's just implement phase 4. All right, let's come back. Epic Z, what up? That's awesome. How long have you been working on this project? Let me see. I built it initially back in January, I want to say. That initially took me probably about 3 to 4 weeks, 4 weeks, I would say. 4 weeks of like real kind of just hands-on building. 4 weeks to get it up for the MVP version. I took probably about a month to 2 months, probably 2 months off, and I built another application. If you can see in that like top corner over there, greenlight.co, which I launched like 2 weeks ago. It was a business kind of SaaS application, And I built that over 2 months, and then now I'm kind of just getting back to it. So all in all, it's probably been about 6 weeks I've been working on this. It's live now. First MVP was 4 weeks, and then this last kind of feature I've been building out has been the last 2 weeks or so. All right, phase 4 updated my direct messages server so I can check basically if a user is falling. So I can basically gate based on user preferences. Direct message not allowed. The recipient preference denied. Is actor a creator, which I've used multiple times. Basically, if a user has the creator role, it's gonna default to that preference of creators. And then again, assert recipient preference allows DM. Basically, if preference is everyone, do nothing. If it's nobody, throw that error. If it's creators, you're gonna check if they're actually a creator, and if it is a follows actor, you're gonna make sure that they are actually following them by querying MyDB. Recipient organization, find first. Same thing for org. You can do the same thing. Everyone, nobody, creators. And then you're going to check your members for that setting is the members. All right, that's pretty straightforward. Actor user ID. This is for resolve or create direct messages. So this is basically directly gating actual creations of messages. All right, looks good. Caro, yo, man, what up? What's going on? How's your day going? Let's go to implement phase 5, which is EPI error mapping, and then phase 6 is just the actual UI control. So let's just do implement phase 5. All right, and then the UI should basically just be updating. Let's come here. What's going on? Let's start my server. That might help. All right, so it should just basically be updating these preferences. What's going on? Oh, I know I'm making changes on my application right now. It's updating my APIs, direct message. If error message that, return with this error message, recipient not accepting direct messages from this account. Same, just adding error returns basically to my API calls if they are blocked. Direct message recipient denied, throw new error, direct message. Optional phase 5 UX, annotate blocked recipients and search and disable them. All right, so is that phase 5 or phase 6? All right, let's go implement that UX enhancement. All right, so like I said, basically it should just update this. I feel like the text is maybe a little bigger than each other. It's gonna update this with another basically drop down here to manage who can actually direct message you as a user. So let's just come here and let's check this. Text looks a little bigger for whatever reason. If I can type, who can mention you? Text base, medium, text, small text muted. I guess not a difference, but all right. So updated my preferences. DM disabled reason codes. DM allowed. DM disabled reason. DM disabled reason code. I'm just gonna update my mentioned search probably. Caro, good bro. My daughter was here earlier. Oh shit, okay. I didn't know you had a daughter, man. That's what's up. I've just been, doing what I do normally, just plugging away. All right, so it updated my mention search. This should be, is a type, it must be import using a type only, so it should fix that. DM recipient preference as that type should be imported here. Annotate user DM eligibility. Basically, this is what determines you're searching for when you're like searching for a user to direct message. Here's the rows of my member mentioned search user. You're gonna pass in the actor ID, actor creator. Get a following preference user IDs and then put them in a set for quick lookups. Make sure they're a follower and that they're allowed. Can't match yourself. It's to nobody. User's not accepting direct messages right now. Actually, member, let's just do this. Only creators can direct message this. Member, only members. All right, annotate organization, DM eligibility, messages, create data, only members. All right, cool. And then it should update my actual text area. Let's see. Recipient. All right, so here's the new message dialog. It's going to return those error codes. DM allowed, recipient.dm allowed is false. Cool, let's go to recipient results list. And it's passing in this disabled reason. All right, that looks good. Now let's go. Six. So I'm glad I'm not the only person who talks out loud like a crazy person while working. Honestly, it just makes things click so much better. It just makes things like stick. Like if I can like hear it out and resonate back for whatever reason, it just makes me understand much better than if I was literally just sitting here in my head. It's kind of like the same way, like, how they say, like, if you can explain a concept to somebody that has no idea what you're talking about or what you're doing, basically explain to them as like a 5-year-old, it makes, it kind of a sign of how much better you understand things. So I kind of do that to myself, honestly. All right, so now it should be updating this and adding another section here. Who can direct message you, members you follow. Here's the same, yep. Members you follow, creators only, and no one. Add some gaps there though. It's a little too close. We have to update direct message updated. All right. DM recipient. Who can direct message you, control who start direct message conversations with you. This is unnecessary. Okay, and then let's see where that is. Convention use space Y. Maybe let's go maybe. Nah. To figure out where their spacing is coming from. There is none. All right, so that's why. Let's do this. keep that, and let's change this to last name. Maybe 4. A little bit more padding to this. All right, spacing's a little bit better. Might tweak things later, but this is fine for now. Who can direct message? You control start messages. All right, and then it should add update to my validations to make sure that even if you try to like sneak some code in here and change those settings, you won't be able to because it won't validate properly. Type. This is for my collective/org/groups. Let's come here, DM preference. Remove this. Come here and check this out. Once I switch into that collective/org, and I go to manage, I should see these in the account settings. Preferences. All right, so let's come here. It's a little messy. Let's remove this. List 3 and table contents, man. What's up, brother on YouTube? What's going on? Thanks for joining the chat. What's going on? How's your day? All right, so this is, I'm gonna do the same thing. Let's add 4 to this. Let's add let's wrap this in a div. Shit. Make sure it's, all right, so it's space 4. Tired of what's going on. How is this considered programming? You haven't written a single line of code. I didn't call it coding, did I? Did I say coding or program? Like, I'm pretty sure programming involves more than just writing the code. Like, I don't know if you know this, but most people don't actually like write out entire lines of codes themselves anymore. And I don't. If you want to check my code base, like, it's pretty deep, and I'm not going to go in there and continue to add more functionality by hand for every single thing. But appreciate your concern. Who can mention this collective? Choose who's allowed to mention your collective. Who can direct messages collective? Choose who's allowed to start direct messages collective. All right, cool. List 3, nah, as long as he understands it, I low-key get it. I mean, exactly. If you understand what your code is doing, why the hell would you need to write every single line of code anymore? It just doesn't. It's not very efficient. Let's put it that way. If you're running a full entire application, like full stack application like this by yourself, go ahead and use agents to code for you and write the code out, because that shit can get very tedious very fast, trust me. But if you're pierced, all power to you. I am not pierced by any means at all. I have not said that I don't use AI agents in my coding. I just, I just know how to actually build stuff and actually understand how my systems work and actually know what's going on in the code base. Well, it depends. You're looking through all of it, so you at least understand it, right? Yeah, I mean, I understand everything. Like, I set up the skeleton and scaffolding, and I set up the initial code base myself, which then I pass on to agents to actually understand how I build things and how I like to code things, and then I let it kind of get start actually writing things and refactoring things. But if you've noticed, I never actually let it just run wild in my code base. But in terms of like handwriting everything, I'm good. I'm not getting paid to handwrite. Like, this is a project, and I don't plan on like doing every single line of code myself. I don't think that makes you a better programmer at all. I think understanding systems and understanding the code base and understanding why things work and how you should do things and understanding security and stuff like that makes you a programmer, and actually understanding what's going into it. But actually, like, handwriting is not that important to me. Do I also automate like CI CD stuff in deployment, or what's your thoughts on that, like for AI and all that? So I'm still doing it the typical way. GitHub obviously was, the kind of de facto kind of format, and that's how I've been doing it. I use their actions to handle my deployment, but I set up my own VPS, I set up Cloudflare, I set up stuff like that. So I set up my own pipeline, and then I let GitHub Actions kind of handle that stuff for me. But I use AIs for like building out my Docker files and deployment stuff like that. But in general, like, once you get automated and you use it typical way, like GitHub Actions, all of that, like, I don't think you need AI all that much for stuff like that. It gets really tricky when you start, using your own VPS and server. Obviously, your agent can't see that side of things and can get real messy if you just let it kind of handle all that yourself. Garo, I'm not a purist, but I am sympathetic to the argument, honestly. Look, I get it. I get why people feel a type of way about it. But in terms of like writing code, like I've said this multiple times, I am not a person that's like, I love writing out every single line of my code. I like building systems. And quite honestly, that's the most fulfilling part of programming to me, is actually building out systems and understanding how things connect and making those connections and coming up with features. So like the actual writing of code never like excited me. I think you still need to understand what is going on and why it's happening, and understand at least what is being written, as I do, and understand why it's doing certain things. But like actually like still going in and hands-on and writing all the code was not why I wanted to get into programming in the first place. It's literally about building systems for me. I like building. So I know everybody's different. I consider myself a programmer. I consider myself a builder more than like a coder, for sure. So I get it. I get why people feel some type of way about it, but it's just that's just not me personally. I feel like my audio sounds. Is my audio sounding weird? I feel like it sounded weird. It's like maybe not picking up my mic. What's going on? I think it is. All right. List 3. Yeah, I used to deploy on VPS, but doesn't that kind of take a lot of work to do? New gen coding is looking at it and understanding and verifying it without writing it. I mean, honestly, yeah, pretty much. I still get in there a lot. I get in there a lot. I still get hands-on a lot, especially tweaking and design stuff. I have to get hands-on a lot. There's always also a lot of times where it does a lot of the scaffolding for me, but I still need to go in there and actually get hands on the code. So I do that pretty often. But for a feature set like this, which is just building on top of other settings and features that I've already implemented, yeah, I don't feel like I need to get as hands-on. Like, it's already templated out for it, so it's just going to do basically copy and paste and refactor what I've already done. So why would I go in there and do it myself, is kind of my thinking. And you said you used to deploy on VPS, but doesn't that take a lot of work to do? So initial deployment can take a decent amount of work, probably like a day to maybe 2 days, depending on how technical or kind of complicated you want to get on your VPS. Typically, I can get one up within like half a day to a day to make sure there's no errors, get everything set up, make sure the code's running properly and stuff like that. But once you get it set up, like, it's just there. Like, it's not really difficult after that. It's just the initial kind of like hurdle and obstacles of getting your VPS running. Other than that, obviously you need to keep things updated and maybe fix little issues here and there. But honestly, once you get it up and running from the first time, like, it's not too difficult to kind of maintain. And then deployment is just pretty easy. You just create a separate user that only handles deployment and can only touch the deployment, can't do anything else. and then it becomes pretty automated at that point. So if you kind of learn little tricks to like have your VPS automate as much as you possibly can, it's pretty easy. I think it's worth learning, honestly, because server is such an obviously crucial aspect of building anything that I think if you're going to build something, you should learn how to, function on a server. And honestly, it's going to save you so much money, especially if you're trying to use a lot of applications, which I do. I do a lot of test applications. Like I can just throw it all up my server for a fraction of the cost of it would have cost me on a lot of other places. And you don't got to worry about like rising prices and charges and all these things. So like I just personally enjoy having the control of a VPS way more over anything else. All right. I think I could do 6 and 7. 6, 7. Radical Nectar, what up? What do I think about LeetCode? So I've only done a little bit of LeetCode, quite honestly. I think it's good for practice. I think it's good if you like puzzles, which I do like. So I do kind of enjoy some of those things because it's like a challenge, and I use it to kind of sharpen up my skills and my tools and just understanding of things. I think it's very useful still in that aspect. But if most jobs are literally kind of forcing people to use AI in anything they do, and they don't want you hand coding anything anyways, it's kind of defeating the purpose of like where things are headed. But I do still think it's very useful in terms of practice and skill sharpening. I think you should always be learning. You should also be sharpening your skills. Just because there's an AI agent doesn't mean that you should just stop learning. I still do courses. I still do practice exams. I do, challenges. Every day for about an hour, I do all that stuff. So I just think like it's still very useful to just make you better and have a better understanding of what is going on and how to build better applications and build better programs. But in terms of like the job market, it doesn't really seem to be nearly as impactful anymore. But there's really no harm in doing it for sure. All right, so added the settings. Now, last part is add some testing. Syndrome, what's the difference between VPS and using a VM? Okay, list 3 said they're kind of the same though. VPS is just a type of VM, especially if you don't use bare metal. Thanks. Yeah, they're pretty much similar, very, very similar. VPS is just kind of what I started out on years and years and years ago when I was running my own websites kind of jankily with HTML, CSS, PHP, even like WordPress sites. So it's kind of always what I've been most familiar with. But I just think if you can run your own kind of like server, or at least have your own virtual server, like it's just so much better. I mean, my kind of goal in the next couple of years is to right now, next year. So it's basically to have my own server at my house that I can kind of run my own personal stuff on. All right, so it's gonna wire up some tests, and then I should be able to here just test this live. Let's go here. All right, who can direct miss? Hold on, was there some? Okay, so I see what's going on. There's a little jumping going on, and I think I know what it is. I think it's the space Y. For whatever reason, space, when it's like, it causes some weird shifts. So let's do a gap. This is one div. It's one more div. So gap. Think I know why there's something going on. Let's come here. Let's go. It's not that one. It's this one. Yep. All right, come back. Tired of, we all understand system design and the moving parts involved. I write the entire system by hand. It takes much more mental effort to understand, slap and fix all the nonsense it spits out. I mean, agree to disagree. I wouldn't say we all understand system design and moving parts involved. I think if you look at a lot of code bases and if you've worked with other kind of programs in recent times, you will quickly see that they don't actually understand the systems that they're putting together or have a deep understanding of system design at all. I think it's actually kind of rare for a lot of people to have a deep understanding of an entire system, quite honestly. And you write the entire system by hand. I mean, that's cool. Like, I'll never knock it. Like, if that's what you want to do, that's what you can do. I personally do not want to write everything out by hand. It just takes a lot of time as your code base continues to get bigger. You're just going to find yourself doing a lot of copying and pasting and little tweaks that just, I'd rather use my mental energy to building up features and building out like core functionality than just tweaking code. That's just me personally. And you said to understand AI, stop and fix all nonsense it spits out. If you build it out, your kind of scaffolding initially, and then if you literally only give it specific context and you only let it build in line with the code that you're already building, it does a pretty decent job, quite honestly. I think you get a lot of AI slop and a lot of kind of bullshit when you just let AI just make its own decisions. But I'm pretty like directed with what I wanted to do. And I've never really run into problems with that after that. Caro, most people just don't go beyond the first order thinking of cause and effect, to be honest. That's what I'm saying. Like, I haven't run into many people. Like, I've been to going to a lot of meetups, honestly, recently, and I've not met a lot of people that genuinely understand a full system or understand why things should be or understand like all those kind of functionalities and things how they should be. I think they understand how to make things work, but they don't necessarily fully understand like why they should be working or deeper understanding or deeper issues that might be coming later on. So I don't know. I'm not in agreement that most people understand system design, quite honestly. What is this? New message, search members or collectives. Wait, why did it make this change? That's weird. Purpose equals DM. No, that shouldn't change. Should stay the same. And resolve acting identity of personal fallback. List 3 of table contents. Okay, but it's good to have a balance because then you don't rely on AI all the time, so it doesn't run into its own issues and keep having this wrong feedback loop if YFM. It's okay to have good. I mean, I agree. Like, I'm not a person that's saying you should AI everything or you should vibe code everything. But I am the person, especially you are a sole developer or a small team when you're trying to build out like deeply complex, feature rich applications. It's just gonna make your life so much easier. It's just a fact. Like having to do some of these applications by hand would take me months upon months. And yeah, it will feel good when it's officially done, but also it feels good getting it done a little bit faster. Like it's a tool. I mean, mathematicians didn't get, I mean, there was obviously pushback when calculators came out, but people learned to work with calculators because there was a clear advantage of using a calculator and you can use your mental abilities in other places that might actually need it. So I just think like if you can find a balance between using AI, use it as a tool, as I do, versus just letting it do everything, I think there's really nothing wrong with that, quite honestly. Like I said, before I even let AI touch anything, I make it put together a deep plan of implementation and I walk it through every single phase. And along every single phase, I still check the code and I make fixes and I make things like, and then the more you kind of work with the agent and like it sees your code base, it typically codes in the similar style of what you've already set up. So like, yeah, you still kind of got to babysit it, but like in terms of like applications and you're trying to build out applications, especially for freelance, kind of like what I do. You don't want to spend all your time just figuring out little code issues. You want to build out features, and that's way more what I'm interested in terms of like the programming side of things than anything else. Like I like to build shit, and I like to see systems connect. The coding part is cool, but it's just not why I got into programming. I got into programming or have my interest in programming because I like to build shit. Centrone, what are the most common problems you notice when people are deploying applications? Security. Honestly, nowadays, if you look nowadays, the most common problem is security. Security is like a massive gap because they don't understand the code. They don't understand the gaps that AI agents can make. Security is a huge issue. And especially if you're trying to go the route of like self-hosting and integrating all these kind of third-party systems like Cloudflare and all that stuff, an agent just can't see all that. So a lot of people run into a lot of issues with that because they didn't take the time to actually learn how those things work and connect to each other. But other than that, I mean, if you learn how to use Docker, which I learned how to do, it can save you a lot of heartache and a lot of headaches just because it's in a containered setting. So if you can use Docker, you'll lessen the issues that you might have that can come from self-hosting because it's built into a container. So if you can learn like that kind of flow of a Docker and maybe a GitHub Actions or whatever, and then learn how to set up like deployment users and to automate things on your VPS, you can cut down on a lot of those issues. But for the most part, it's just people don't take the time to actually learn how things should be deployed. They just try to deploy really quickly. Like I took like weeks out to like learn proper deployment. So like that's kind of the main issue. People just think AIs can just deploy things anywhere and everywhere and easily. It's like, that ain't how it works. That's why they have sites that you have to pay to deploy to using their tools, because that's how they just get money out of you. But if you actually know how to deploy, you can deploy anywhere. Caro, not even in their tangible life, what will happen after certain actions, let alone over invisible internet or whatever. Exactly. 1000%. Like, I just don't trust people. Like, I mean, like, I don't think I'm just not in agreement that most people understand systems. I think most people do not understand systems. I think that's what separates good builders and good programmers from others. Even if you're better than another person in the actual coding aspect of things, there are people that just understand systems and how they should work just much better. And I think in the long run, you can learn how to code. It's much harder to learn how to build intuitive systems for people, quite honestly. Drunk and pissed off. Yo, thoughts on the Cavs getting absolutely shit swept? That's a good question. Not even a good question. I mean, I expected it. I have zero faith in James Harden. Absolutely zero. And everybody's like, this is the year. This is the piece they needed. I'm like, bro, have y'all watched James Harden his entire career? He never delivers in the playoffs. Like, at all. So I'm not surprised at all that the Cavs got absolutely shit stomped by the Knicks. Caveat, I am a little surprised because I didn't think the Knicks had the enough to sweep a team like that, but they on a fucking roll right now. And the Cavs, that was a sad way to go out, honestly. Very sad way to go out. And James Harden, man, like, I just have no faith in him, and I can't believe people continue to trade and give him big contracts knowing that he has never delivered, not one time in the playoffs. Carol, calculator is a good parallel. Actually, if you define all your parameters, you're fine. But once you start letting the calculator decide what the number 5 means, you're messed up. Exactly. I mean, I treat this literally like a calculator. Like, you just do exactly what I'm telling you to do. Don't go run off and do your own things. I might ask it for suggestions and like to do a little research, but like in general, it's like, I've never just let it just make decisions for me. Like, I'm the decision maker, you're the tool. Like, people use it oppositely, whereas like the agent is the decision maker and then I'm the tool. But like, I think that that's crazy. Like, you should use it like a calculator, like any other tool. I think out my decisions, I think out my problems deeply before I even approach it, and then I tell it the parameters of how it should approach things, and with occasional suggestions. But for the most part, I'm the decision maker. Tired of is it? It is possible to escalate privileges out of a Docker container. Do not rely on it for security, as it is not a secure boundary. I mean, yeah, 1000%. I don't think anything. I mean, that's just kind of programming, right? Like, there's nothing that is 100% secure. There's always gonna be issues, and Docker's. I mean, you don't got crazy issues, and out of like escalating privileges, in terms of like your server, that's where most of your privileges should come by for the most part. And I never give my deploy user access to my Docker privileges. So, I mean, I try to kind of contain for as many issues as possible. Obviously, you'll never be able to cover everything, and sometimes you're gonna have to learn lessons the hard way. But I do not give privileges to my deployment in terms of like Docker and stuff like that. So I try to be as secure as possible. So I definitely understand where you're coming from that. And drunk and pissed off, James Harden really said it's a shame because we're the better team. You know, it's crazy. Like, they low-key might be. Like, they were talented as fuck. But he's the problem. Like, did y'all, like, I don't know how many of y'all watched playoffs, but game one, for the last 10 minutes, they literally said, you know what? Just make him guard me every single time and we'll win the game. Down by 20, he guarded them every last possession and got his ass busted every last possession. I have no faith in him. And the fact that Patrick Beverly, we actually kind of know, actually out of his mouth said James Harden is a better player than Dwayne Wade, who's never disappeared in the playoffs, is fucking insanity. All right, let's test this out. So this should work. Like I said, it's basically just extending what I already have here, so it shouldn't really be an issue. Let's switch to, I don't think anybody's messaged them. No, he has. Let's do this. Who can direct you? Let's turn this to no one, and then switch to him. Let's go to my messages. All right. All right, cool. So it's disabled. So let's come here and let's clean this up. Instead of showing, no, here's recipient list. Truncate text. It should just be extra small. Let's go muted, and let's remove this reason. Let's just give it one generic reason. This member want to make this generic. I want to tell you exactly why you can't just say cannot be direct messaged. Should be better. And let's call you italic. Caro, Knicks 4-0, baby. I didn't know you were a Knicks fan. Let's see how they do. Let's see how they do in the finals. That's gonna be a good ass series depending on who they play. I'm really locked in for this OKC San Antonio series, and we'll see. We'll see what happens in the finals. I just remember it cannot be direct messaged. Cool. All right, now let's come here, switch back. See the Dragon pissed off. Hope OKC goes to Game 7, so our boy Brunson is super rested. Like, it's a double-edged sword, honestly. He definitely needs some rest. Honestly, not that much the way they swept the Cavs, but he definitely needs some rest. But it's kind of double-edged sword. You don't want to be too rusty because, honestly, playing in the playoffs, it's low key almost better sometimes to go the full way because you just get more game experience and you just get more comfortable. You see it all the time where teams have been out for a long time and just waiting for the team and they just come out flat. So I don't know. And I don't even know. We'll see. I don't know if OKC is going to get through San Antonio. All right, creators only. All right, so now I should be able to direct message. All right, let's see. Cool, things are working. Sharing still works because I actually forgot the gate for that. All right, so that works. Cool. So now I can do a message. And let's do one more check to make sure the other setting is properly set up. Members I follow. So nobody should be able to message until they follow. So let's do this. Drunk and pissed off, is OKC or Spurs a better matchup for Knicks? I'll cheer for them. Damn, that's a good question. I think the Spurs are a better matchup just because they don't have the experience that OKC has, or necessarily the depth. They do have a lot of depth, and Wembanyama is a fucking monster to deal with. I think Cat would get demolished by him, but Cat can actually get buckets too, so I think that'll be kind of a good back and forth. I just think Jalen Brunson having to guard Shea in the finals is going to be a problem. And then OKC has a ton of guards to throw at Brunson. And I don't know if the other guards are necessarily good enough one-on-one players to cause them problems the way like Stephen Castle has caused them problems. So I don't know. I think the Spurs are a better matchup. I think it's going to be a tough matchup either way. But I think the Spurs, just for the simple fact, Brunson going to have to guard somebody like Shea. And that's going to be a problem. Kaden, what up? That's a nice looking front end. Man, I appreciate that. Definitely put a lot of work into the design kind of things for this one. Tired of what is your social network about, and were you inspired by any other apps? So this platform is basically, how do I put this? I mean, it's like most other kind of social platforms you can think of. You create a profile, you post things, you kind of connect with other people. You find other cool shit to kind of follow and like. But the main difference for mine is that it is currently an invitation only, and it's gated specifically to creators, completely catered to creators. And when I mean creators, I mean like actual creators, like musicians, artists, filmmakers, writers, things like that. Actual creators, not like influencers. So it's kind of like split between a dual usage. You have to be approved to become a creator, meaning to post, to share your work and all that. Anybody can be a curator, as we call them. So anybody can be like kind of like Pinterest. You get an account, you can follow things, you can follow users, you can like things, you can comment, you can create collections, just like you would on Pinterest, but you can't actively post things until you get approved to be a creator, which goes through kind of a a vetting kind of process, a very small, simple vetting process to ensure that you are an actual creator, because I don't want to have a platform full of a lot of slop, honestly. So we do a little bit of vetting, and I was inspired by all the other apps. Pinterest obviously being one of those. Just kind of from a design standpoint, I loved how the masonry kind of feed feels. That'd probably be the biggest inspiration. Obviously, there's Instagram, there's the other ones, things like that. But I wanted to make it a more curated kind of experience. There's no algorithms, there's no AI setups, things like that. You can kind of build your own feeds. So, for example, if you are interested in, let's say, post punk or something like that, right? And you want to follow this, you can follow a tag, and anything that basically gets posted with that specific tag, and each post or whatever can only have 3 tags, it can show up into your feed of following. So you can basically build out your own feeds as you want instead of relying on an algorithm to tell you what you should be seeing. You can follow collections of other people. So curators can still get followers by creating collections that people might find interesting. And you can follow those collections. And if you follow those collections, once again, that gets added to your feed. Same with collectives, which are kind of like a group profile where creators can come together and kind of curate their own work and things like that. But generally, it is kind of like that in terms of a kind of social platform is what I'm aiming for. All right, what was I checking? Checking messages. Now I should not be able to, right? Cannot message, but I might need to gate my sharing. And I do. All right, let's gate that. Drunk and pissed off, could Jared McCain be a singing / vocalist creator? Nah, Jared McCain he's on the TikTok vibe. We'll keep him over there. That's all I'm gonna say. He can stay over there. All right, share dialogue. Where's that list? Select the recipient result list. All right, so this needs to be updated with those same checks as the new message dialog. Call me Noble using a fork of X algorithm. No, there's actually 0 algorithms on this platform. I think algorithms are shit, and it's just a way to throw shit in front of you that you don't want to see. And I think that's a very frustrating experience. I'm somebody that I know what I like to see and what I want to see, and I want an easy way to follow the shit that I want to follow and see the shit that I want to see. So no, there's no algorithms involved in this at all. You build your own feeds. Build them how you want. You can follow tags, you can follow users, you can follow collections, you can follow collectives. You can build your own feed directly. Full control over what you see. All right, so let's undo this. Don't need that. That's selected. Next recipient as recipient item. All right, it's checking if the DM is allowed. If not, it should disable that selection. Do this. Basically just passing down selected recipient that DM allowed, defaulting to false, but we'll see. Let's undo this. Recipient item, okay, passing this down. Mention search, so don't even need this. Name string, passing down, active organization, name string, no. Okay. All right, so now when I come in here, it should be gated. As you can see, this member cannot be direct messaged. Cool. So I can't share through the DMs with this, and I can't DM directly. But if I follow, I should. I should now be able to DM. Well, let's mark this. Let's come here. Nothing's happening, so I need to actually create a dialogue right here. So come back to layout. It's gonna be share. No, it's gonna be send. Is owner? Nope. All right, so this is gonna be a message button. Let's pull in that layout. All right, so this is the stuff that I love using AI for. Will not lie, I hate having to come in and refactor little things like this. I can just tell it, hey, I need a dialogue launched here, and it will build that for me. All right. I need this button to launch a dialogue. Alerting that this member cannot be direct messaged if that's according to dialogue. All right, let me retake this. All right, so I need this button to launch a dialogue if a user can't be messaged according to their preferences. Create the dialogue as a separate component. All right, cool. So it is gated. It's not creating the direct message, but I need some feedback here. So I'm going to let it go ahead and create a dialogue as a separate component and launch that dialogue when they're not allowed to message. See here. All right, cool. All right, message. This account is not accepting version. All right, let's not be so aggressive with this member. And then it's gonna import that, and it's gonna bring my preference blocked dialog and preference denied message. If fetcher equals that denied message, which was set up in my other file, then it will launch this. So make sure that works. Let's refresh. Let's go back to that profile. Direct messages unavailable. This member cannot be direct messaged. Cool. Now, when I actually follow them, because that is what their settings are set to, I should be able to DM. Let's just refresh to make sure. All right, let's fix that. Switch to them. Share my settings. Oh, members I follow. Okay, that's why. We got that mixed up. So let's switch back. One of my notifications started following me. It's following back. So now when I come back to this account, I should be able to message them. And I can. All right, cool. So user settings work appropriately. The only thing I already know there's a gap in this, and that gap is for users that have already started a conversation with somebody. Once they message them, it should they will most likely be able to direct message regardless of a user settings. Let's check that right now. But I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be the gap. Remember to follow, switch this to no one. Direct message updated. All right, let's switch back on the DMs. And send a GIF. Like I said, I knew that was going to be the gap because this gating is basically for new messages and starting a direct message. For something like this, I think the best way for user experience is basically you'd have to like almost block somebody. I don't know if it's the appropriate way to just have a conversation and somebody change their settings. You can all go message them. I think I'll have to set up actual blocking, but I'm not sure yet how I want to handle that. I'm going to leave it as is. Down the line, I will have to implement blocking functionality. There's currently none. And one thing I think I'm gonna do is set up a blocking, so then if that user is blocked, they cannot message you. And probably gonna do muting as well for messages, so you just won't even see them. But we'll see. Because the only other way is once you switch your settings is to basically hard deny message sending altogether, and that can be kind of confusing for users as to why they can no longer do that, and they might not understand that there's a setting, but I think that just makes your app look kind of bad. So let's add some context to that. Okay. All right, and there's our control who can start direct message conversations. All right, that makes sense. All right, cool. So I'll leave that as is. I will handle that later on with actual, blocking, muting functionality down the line. But right now that is good enough for me. Let's switch into a organization. Test those settings out. Who can direct message this collective? Go to no one. All right, so come here. Let's try the message. Unavailable. Let's try to send stuff to them. Should be unavailable as well. Oh, I might actually need to update this as well. I thought I already had this wired, but it's not. All right, let's set this up. You said user can follow someone, send a direct message, then unfollow them seems pointless. I mean, that's just not typically how user behavior works. But I'm gonna leave it pretty open-ended, just simply because I don't want to have too many hard controls in place. I think it's pretty clear in terms of like if you set that setting, somebody cannot start a conversation with you. And if you follow them, and honestly, again, if you follow somebody and you send them a direct message, the conversation has started. So it no longer matters what that setting is because the conversation is already up and running. Um, Aside from that, messaging is massive undertaking, is essentially an app in itself. You should avoid that feature entirely until the core app is fully polished. I mean, I've just continued to build on top of it. Like I said, it is strictly closed beta right now, invitation only. It's a small amount of users, so I'm not really too kind of worried about the implications and things like that. Most people are pretty like open to the stuff like this, so I'm just going to continue to build that out as I go. But like I said, if you were to follow somebody and you were to message them, you started the conversation. So even if you were to unfollow them, that setting no longer matters. That's why I'm not hard coding it. The only other kind of implementation past that would literally be blocking and muting, which is not the hardest thing to implement, but I'm not going to do that right now. What I need to set up though is my sharing. It seems to be wired for my collectives. Let's figure this out. Collective. I don't think I updated this. Yeah, I didn't. Oh shit. Yeah, because I only got phone user. Dang. All right. So I need to align these. All right. So all right, so I had patched my new message dialog when I built my organization feature out to include organization recipients as well, but I forgot to do that for my share dialog. So instead of doing that myself, I'm going to allow it as well. Drunk and pissed off is game time. See you. Thanks for roasting Jeremy. Yeah, I'm about to hop up here in a little bit too. Definitely gonna catch probably at least the second half of that for sure. You said no Gitlins in your ID? No. No. I thought about it. I looked into it. I might start tampering with that and other things, but pretty vanilla actually, my ID in terms of things. Okay, but where's my mention search recipient? I'm not even using this. John Patel, what up? Did I play D1 ball? Yes, I did. Play D1 ball at University of Nevada, Wolfpack. All right, cool. So now it's including my cannot be direct messaged. Cool. Let's make this active. Manage. Let's go creators only. Should be able to message. I can. Members only. All right, cool. So let's come here. Once again, I should not be able to message. Cannot be direct messaged. But if I join, go. Since it's open join, let's join. I am now a member. Now I should be able to message. Cool. So getting is working for both users and organizations. Looks pretty good to me. All right, cool. So when I come back and switch to this account, got that notification and should see that message. Cool. All right, cool. Let's keep these. Let's delete this. Let's come back to I need switch account model. All right, last little feature I will need to do is clean up is this modal, because this can get pretty long. All right, let's wire this up. Let's come here. Sorted orgs going to be copy for my root. Why not? Let's make sure this works. Let's go to 2. Cool. So let's go to 5. Let me 2 to 5. All right. So what I'm gonna have to do. Tired of what up? What tech stack am I using? I would be interested in your system design diagram since you mentioned that you enjoy architecture design. I definitely don't have any diagrams to be honest with you. It's just kind of all in my head. I use Figma a little bit, just started kind of doing that, but generally I kind of done all this pretty much on the fly, honestly, in terms of design stuff. I use Shadcn for scaffolding and for the skeleton components, so I don't need to wire all buttons and all cards and things like that. But then I go in and pretty significantly updated things on my own, on design wise. But my tech stack generally for these applications, the last few applications I built, has been React Router 7 as the framework, obviously on top of React and JavaScript, which comes with TypeScript, so everything's TypeScripted. And then I use obviously Docker for deployment and containers. I use Drizzle for my ORM in terms of communicating with my DB. And I use BetterAuth for my authentication. Then I use Tailwind for CSS. So that's generally the kind of tech stack that I pretty much go with right now. All right, so I want to limit this to 5, but I want to put a search input here. So I don't have a limit on how many organizations a person can be a part of. So maybe update you. I'll leave that for now. Let's alternative. Just divide between. Let's go div. All right, so I'm gonna have to wire this up, or I'm not gonna have to wire this up. My agent's gonna have to wire this up, but basically it's going to add a search input here, and then it's going to update my route to handle probably search within the loader. Since it is a modal that can be used anywhere within the application, let's see. It might. What I think it's going to do is add a parameter in the URL and then pass that to my switchable organization and scope what returns here. That's the way I would probably do it. I think that's the way it's most likely going to do. I kind of want to see what it's going to do. A user can search for an organization from their list of switchable organizations. This search needs to be server based so they can search their entire. All right, let's do that. All right, so like I said, here's the input. It's gonna add a loader search button, and then it should be updating. Oh, all right, so I created an API endpoint for my searchable organizations, and it's gonna handle the search like that. So let's see. Searchable organization. And that's just my fetcher here. All right, and I created a use effect that is creating a query that is going to call that API with that query, which, okay, that's actually might be better than what I was going to do. We're just going to go to the root. You said nice stack choice. What the DB are you using? You know, are you playing event vector search for the content? So right now, my DB that I pretty much always use is Supabase as kind of my go-to. I might change, look at some other things, but right now it's pretty cheap for, you know, running all these kind of prototype programs and applications. Pretty happy with it right now. So Supabase is the one I use. It integrates pretty easily with Drizzle, which is what I use for ORM. And then you said, am I playing the vector search for the content? So when you see vector search, are you talking about like kind of like how AI searches, where it's more based on meaning and stuff like that than just like keyword matches? If that's what you mean, then yeah, I do plan on extending search in the future. But right now, not necessarily much needed. But as my application hopefully grows, I definitely want to implement more kind of context searching. So I want to implement, you know, searching by colors. I want to be able to search using a keyword and we'll pull up images that weren't necessarily tagged with anything, but just has an understanding. So yeah, down the line, I definitely plan on doing it. But right now, I just don't think so. Don't think there's much of a need for it. It's at a very kind of beginner stage. But down the line, I definitely want to do cool shit with search. I think that would be pretty dope. Actually, one application that I have used before that does that is Cosmos. They do a really good job with their search and pulling together content that you might not even think of just by kind of, like you said, vector searching. So I think it's a really cool way of doing things, and I hopefully plan on doing that down the line. You said all the stack with RR7 may not easily scale to native desktop or mobile apps. It seems that you're taking a browser first approach. So yeah, I'm definitely building this first for the web. It's what I'm most comfortable with. It's the easiest to get up. I can, you know, with Tailwind, it's honestly very easy to scale applications to work on different screen sizes. So it's definitely browser based right now. I just started kind of getting into more mobile application building. So that is a route that I plan on going here within the next couple months. I forget the exact there is something that I was going to use that makes things easier to get to a mobile application. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, I do plan on going the mobile application route and full application route. But for testing and for just getting things up quickly, I pretty much always go browser first, and then I kind of like determine if it's worth putting in the effort of converting it to an application, mobile application. All right, so the default limit is 25. That's way too many. I don't want to pull 25. Let's go 10. It's gonna make sure you are signed in. If you're not, you can't proceed, and it's gonna grab my URL as I pass that query along into the parameters. It's gonna grab that from the API, and it's gonna search my members, and it's going to join my organizations along with that, and it's going to be able to search based on name or slug. Members that user ID and owner admin. All right, this needs to be updated. Yeah, this needs to be updated. Switchable. No, I don't actually. This is just for organizations. I'm tripping. All right, so let's grab my ID, name, slug, and logo from my organization table, searching for members. So I'm joining to members, so I know that you have to be an owner or admin, which is switchable context for my organization. Okay, that's actually right. And then query that linked. So based on the query, I should debounce this. Let's see if it's already set up. Trim, query that length greater than 0. Yeah, I'm gonna have to debounce this, I think. No collect much search. No. All right, cool. Let's make this. Tired of, you said, yeah, using vector embeddings to capture the meaning of the content. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought it was. I'm not super familiar with that, but I have used applications that use it, and I think that shit is almost like magic, kind of, honestly. I think that is the coolest aspect of AI and the things it can do with things like that. So I definitely plan on implementing in some of my applications. It's just not something I'm planning on doing right away. But at some point I will. You said didn't catch if you mentioned your API. What are you using? I don't know. Not entirely sure what you mean by it, but what I mean, I pretty much just use a VPS. I use Cloudflare for certain things, but I don't, no, I don't use Hono. And you said tired of the trap with RS7 is that you go the mobile app route later. Do you need to separate your API from the front end? Yeah. There is, I mean, what is the one? It's I actually looked this up. I forget the name of it. It's something that was supposed to make switching easier. Is it Expo? How many of y'all have used Expo? I think Expo is what I talked to someone. They're like, go ahead, you should use Expo if you're going to make a mobile application. It's supposed to make it much easier to go from a React Native like framework like RO7 to a mobile application. So that's probably the route I was going to go. I was going to learn Expo. But from what I heard, Expo would definitely be the way to go. I need to restart this. All right, so I need to debounce this because right now it's firing immediately. I don't really want that. Where is it? Query length greater than 0, you're gonna fire. Set debounced. And that debounce query. Let's organization query. Load length greater than 0. True debounce query. So all search requests run through one debounce. All right, cool. ME33, you said, yeah, if I want mobile plus web, you can use Expo. You'll just use React Native. Yeah, that's pretty much the route I was probably going to go for this one. The least resistance seemed to be Expo. I'm not familiar with it, but I think I can learn it pretty quickly. And that was what I was probably going to end up doing the next month or two, learning that. And then typically what I do is I typically build a couple just test projects using that, and then I'll use it for my other applications. So that's probably what I'm going to do. I want to use how to use it at least for maybe future implementation. And then it said your API then can be Hano, which is also a web framework that is meant for TypeScript. In the future, if you want to use vectors, you'll need a VectorDB queued run. Is pretty good. Okay, all right. Appreciate all the feedback because I'm definitely still learning. There's a lot of that's one thing about this. There's so much to learn. Like there's always new things coming out. There's always new techniques. So many examples of learning things. So like I appreciate the feedback for sure. But mobile is the next step. You know, I feel like I got a pretty good grasp on browser applications. Mobile is definitely the next step. And I think it's honestly for freelancing, there are a lot of more opportunities if you can do both. So that's definitely what I'm going to do. Tired of, you said, yes, that is what Expo is for, but you have to call your APIs from the mobile client. It requires the client server architecture without the SSR or the RPC abstractions found in our R7 and Next.js. Interesting. So basically I had to build my own kind of backend and kind of set up my own architecture like that instead of relying on, you know, my framework's SSR. Definitely things to consider. I mean, quite honestly, let's be honest. Like, I have a couple applications now. One is actually making a little bit of money. Hopefully, I can like scale that. But if I can get these applications to actually make real money, I definitely plan on bringing other people on board and not doing all this solo. But right now, it's fun. I like getting hands-on. I like learning these things. Me 3.3. Yeah, I'll need a backend. Okay. I was afraid of that. I was trying to avoid having to build a own backend. I enjoy the simplicity of Drizzle and just supervision, just being able to handle things like that. I did not want to build out my own kind of backend architecture. I am capable of doing that, but I don't want to do that. Didn't want to do that, but definitely seems to be the route I'm gonna have to go when doing mobile. Honestly, I mean, some of y'all have been developing for a while. Do you think there will ever become a time where you can just build one application, and it will be acceptable across mobile and everything else, and not having to build out completely separate code bases? Basically, that seems like the dream world to me, is if you can just build out one application for every kind of service. Do you think that will ever be a thing? Mickey 8079, what's up? What do you think is the best way to learn how to code and actually build software/websites? Okay, I mean, that's a good question. I get that a few times, but I'll get to you in a second. All right, so that works. Now let's check this. I should probably increase the height of this. And 180. Let's go. I don't worry about the layout there, but search works. That's the last thing I wanted. DM privacy works. That feature is now wired up and set up, so I'm going to go ahead and commit this feature. DM privacy for both users and orgs. Another feature updated switch count photo with a switch search functionality for switchable orgs. All right, now want to say that was all I needed to do last on this. Yeah, for that one I'm done. All right, let me see if we can get back to the chat. You said backing and stuff, okay. And then you said they call that service as a software. You'll find lots of those in the B2B or enterprise. Okay, I'll definitely check that out then, because I'm definitely interested into more of that. All right. I'm about to sign off here in a minute, but I'm gonna read some yo shots real quick before I get out of here. Jacob Mom, what's up? You said Expo / React Native lets you launch to any platform from a single code base. That's what I was hoping, but I don't know. We'll see. ME33 with the agent and capabilities deploying on a company's VPC allows tailored custom solutions and automations, the birth of the FDE for deployed engineer. Huh. Tired of that works only on paper. No, it's pretty good. I mean, I'm gonna test out everything. I'm gonna test out everything. And I'll give my report on what works and what doesn't, because I definitely plan on like seeing the best road forward for deploying all these different things. ME, you can have a mono repo for both your web and mobile, but you'll need a separate repo for the backend. Okay. And then Expose RR allows you platform checks to show only specific designs based on the platform of the user, web versus mobile. Okay. Like I said, I'm definitely gonna test all these out and see the best way forward. I know it's gonna be very app dependent, but I definitely want to learn all the tools so I can just deploy easily and build things without having all these frictions. But there's just so many different tools and different options and different things that people have different advice for things. So like, I'm definitely going on a learning journey, and like over the next couple of months, I'm definitely planning on diving more into mobile and kind of learning the best way forward for deployment. I feel like I got browser down pretty well. Mobile is definitely the next big kind of thing for me. All right, last chat I'll get to. It was Mickey. You said, what do you think is the best way to learn how to code and actually build software such websites? So I don't know the best way. I can tell you the best way I learned. Because number one, you have to learn how you learn. If you learn how you learn, and you know how you learn, you can learn anything. That's kind of me. Like I have a real good understanding about how I learn things. So I still did the traditional route. I didn't just jump into programming, honestly. Like I've been doing this on and off for majority of my life. Even when I was doing my professional career, and even when I was in college and I wasn't studying it, I was still doing it on the side on my own and learning different things just for fun, because I enjoyed actually doing it. First full language I actually learned was Ruby on Rails, and I built a full application. Actually, this application I'm building, I actually had built it out like 10, 12 years ago using just Ruby on Rails. And it was functional and everything, and I had testing all, but it just wasn't at a level that I felt comfortable with. And it was just fun to do. So I kind of put it on back burner. But over the last year, 2 years, since I've been transitioning to like this new kind of path that I want to take, like I have fully dove back in. So I've done a bunch of courses. I've learned all the fundamentals as much as I can. I use free ones. I use FreeCodeCamp for learning like just core basics and understandings. I think they do a pretty good job of just teaching kind of like general accepted best practices and getting a good kind of baseline of understanding of how to program and how to code, especially in things like JavaScript and like SQL and Bash and things like that. So that's how I kind of learned. And then for the first 6 to 8 months, I actually didn't use AL at all in any of my coding and practices and things like that. I just tried to learn it as basic, as native as I possibly can. So then when I did actually turn towards AI and actually use some help from that, it would just, be a plus in terms of like a kind of handicap for me. So that is the best way I kind of learned how to do it. And then once I kind of got comfortable enough, I did some YouTube tutorials like most people do, but do not get stuck in those. I only did those for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then I quickly moved on. I think you can kind of get quickly stuck into those. And while they can kind of teach you how to kind of launch an application, start building those things, you're not really going to learn how to build an application until you start doing it on your own, until you start hitting those walls, obstacles, those different challenges. So like you got to kind of decide like an application or something that you want to build that like is truly challenging. Find something that's truly challenging and just kind of just go for it. Because until you start doing it, until you start learning hosting, until you start learning backend, until you start learning how to talk to your DB, until you start learning how to do APIs and third-party packages and all these different things, which you're only going to learn by building out a full application, you won't know. Even no matter how much courses and learning you're going to do, you won't know until you start getting hands-on. And then once you kind of start getting hands-on, like you try to get as much time on keyboard as possible. Coming from sports, basically the best way to put it is get time on court. Like get as much time just practicing over and over and over again. You need to make mistakes. So like there's no amount of just teaching that's going to teach you how to do it. You're going to have to do it yourself. And if you kind of push through all those challenges that you eventually will kind of get to, like you will quickly like kind of look back and like, damn, I learned so much in like these last month, 2 months, whatever. Like, and if you truly get stuck, obviously you have help with AI agents, which is just pretty much a replacement for me, which the first way I kind of learned was Stack Overflow. Was kind of going there when I was building things and getting in trouble or needed advice or help. That was the go-to. But obviously now you kind of have like a tutor in hand, but don't use it as a crutch. Learn how to do it naturally. Learn the concepts, learn how systems work together, how they connect. And then once you kind of get a good foundation, just start building. Build as much as you possibly can. And that's it. That's basically it. Like get hands on a computer and code as much as you can. Like I think I've coded probably every single day for the last like 5 months. Honestly, like that. There might be like a couple days or two here where I didn't for the most part. Like I've had hands on keyboard, and if I wasn't doing it, I was at least thinking about it constantly, thinking about new challenges, thinking about new ways of doing things, and like do things over and over again. And then you'll just over time just get better and get a better understanding. But like try to get a core understanding as much as you possibly can. And then once you kind of go from there, you're just like adding on top of that. And then one last one, ME, are you looking to work in a big tech or a startup or at a SMB? So right now I'm actually been applying to startups and like small businesses because that's kind of the route I want to go. I'm the type of person that I like to at least have input in as a whole and kind of like help shape the full direction of something. I'm interested low-key in big tech, but honestly, not really. Like I'm more hands-on and like getting that experience, especially at the beginning. I would much rather have a role that allows me to get hands-on into so many different areas of actually building something in real world production kind of setting than just being another cog in a wheel. So I would definitely take less money to work at like a startup and stuff like that. It's just kind of a right now with all this AI stuff, it's kind of crazy in terms of like applying and like seeing all these jobs of what's actually real and which one's just kind of AI vaporware. But that's definitely kind of the route I want to go. Other than that, I've been freelancing, been building out my own applications. As you can see in the corner of greenlight.co, guys can check that out. A little SaaS app that I built, launched 2 weeks ago or so. Actually doing, decent, getting some users and stuff like that. But in general, it's just kind of like, yeah, I want to get as much experience, and I don't think working for a big tech at first is going to be the way for me. So definitely I would be more interested in like startups. And then if I can get these applications, this one specifically going, where I can get some decent like monthly revenue and not have to stress so much about, jobs and things like that, I would just like try to like build out as much cool things as I can, honestly. And Emmy, you said, like you said, you have the most impact as a startup. I do suggest learning to work with AI, Codex, Claude. It's quite mandatory in startup environment. Yeah, Claude is definitely the next one. I'm definitely going towards in Codex and like learning how to build those. I don't think it's gonna be too difficult to kind of make that shift. I'm pretty comfortable working with kind of AI agents right now, so that's definitely the next thing in terms of like getting into there. But yeah, that's definitely the next route. But I gotta go. I've been on it for a minute. Appreciate y'all for joining the chat, streaming, whatever. Hope to catch y'all on here again. I'm on here pretty regularly, so like I enjoy these chats, learn a lot from y'all. Hope y'all learn a little bit from me. Let's keep building, let's make those connections, and I'll be back again shortly, man. Appreciate y'all for joining. Peace.
The suppression, the use of marijuana.